Well, it's that time again, time to change out some major components on my main desktop. It's not like I don't want to. I've been putting up with the weird quirks of my Gigabyte board, but it's gotten to a point now to where it's just really annoying. The two things I'm currently experiencing right now that are fairly consistent, one is coil whine. Now, I don't know if that's coming from the 4080 or if it's coming from the motherboard itself. Considering I'm hearing the coil whine even while it's idling, I'm going to say it's the motherboard. But with that said, that's more of a first world issue and I can just wear headphones and I don't hear it again. But the one issue that this board has happened is not just me that has the exact same issue, is I'll go to turn the system off for the night and I'll wake up later the next day to the computer being turned completely back on and at the desktop. I have no idea why this high-end motherboard does this, and there's still no fix for it. It's really annoying. Now, with that said, the easiest solution is to just flip the power switch on the power supply when I'm done with the computer for the night, which is what I was doing when I had my 4K TV as my main monitor. But I went back to my Samsung 1440p monitor because it's at 165 hertz, while this is only at 60 hertz. And as much as I'm going from 4K down to 1440p, the high refresh rate of this monitor is just better in every single way possible. So with that said, what am I going to be doing to upgrade the system? I got a very highly reviewed AsRock board. I've had AsRock boards in the past when I was originally doing all AMD, and AsRock boards have been stable. Though AMD was AMD, and I'm not going to get into that. But these were very stable boards, and I've always liked them. They're not super feature rich, but they do the job, and I thought, why not go back to a stable board to hopefully have even more stability than I currently do. I do want to mention, though, I did encounter a few weird little issues a little while ago. I had my first blue screen of death on the system about 2 weeks ago. It was basically hardware related. And all I was doing was Alt F4ing out Sea of Thieves and reloading because I think I wanted to like get a chest of fortune or chest of legends or something, and I want to have record what was happening and whatnot. So I Alt F4 so I can tell the computer to play the audio through my headphones and whatnot. And when I went to reload back into Sea of Thieves, it basically blue screened on me. That's one major instability issue I had. I've yet to be able to resolve it again or have it happen again, but I'm just going to give it up to Windows being Windows. Another issue is I had a complete hard lock playing Minecraft of all things. I don't know why I had a hard lock on Minecraft, but that's a little weird. So those are the other two issues I'm having. With that said, I'm not chalking up to any weird instability issues. I'm just chalking up to Windows 10 being Windows 10. But if I do have a weird blue screen again, if I do have that exact same weird blue screen of death again, then it's possible my video card's on the way out, which would be weird considering this thing's not even a year old. But there are some people out there having issues with the VRAM on these cards and them just dying. It wouldn't surprise me because I believe this is like a first run 4080. So hopefully I don't have to do it. But if I do have that same exact blue screen of death, I am going to RMA this through MSI because I spent like $2,000 on this God accursed video card, and I want to make sure I get one that doesn't want a blue screen on me. But with that said, where am I going to get the processor to fit the new board I got? And what processor is it going to be? It's going to be i7-11700K I got from my secondary computer about, I want to say a month ago. Overall, stability-wise, this has been a very stable system. The only issue I've encountered, and this goes for all Gigabyte boards, is for some reason the fans I'm using, which I believe are from Deepcool, they're Deepcool fans, the ARGB stuff right here. The ARGB with these fans don't play nice. They'll just randomly flicker. With that said, as it stands right now, there we go. That little flicker is what I'm talking about. That's aesthetic, and it doesn't actually impede the actual performance of the computer. It's just more of a nuisance. So I'm going to pull the processor and RAM out of this board, and maybe even the storage also, and put it all into my main computer here. But before I do that, I need to finish copying all my data off this thing so I can actually do that. So when that's all nice and done, I will come back. Another thing I do want to note is I'm going to also try and clean it, do more cable management and clean this area up, because I plan on actually having one of my 360s and my PS3 right there, the fat model, hooked up to this monitor right here. And I want to have room for it like right here and whatnot. And I also want to have room for my Series S. That way, so whenever my friends want to swap from PC Sea of Thieves to Xbox Sea of Thieves, I can easily do that and accommodate them, because as it currently stands, the Sea of Thieves, there's still a significant amount of cheaters in the game. Luckily, Rare has seemed to fix the teleportation and whatnot, but knowing cheaters in Sea of Thieves, it won't be much longer before they start teleporting again. Though I wouldn't be surprised if I even encountered a few already, but I'm not going to get into that in this video. This is going to be me putting my computer back together. So, like I said before, when I get this thing all set back, or when I get everything copied over, I'll come back and I'll probably be in the kitchen with this thing torn down and whatnot, or with both these systems torn down and whatnot, and come back. Might as well give it a little bit of an update on the 360s while I'm waiting for everything to copy over on the computers and whatnot. The ugly bolt modded 360 here still works, but it has a weird little quirk. It likes to red ring of death from time to time, and the way to resolve it is to power cycle it. With that said, hopefully whenever my local freaky comes by or gets another dead 360, I can harvest the coolers from it and slap it onto this thing without any issues, basically reviving it and foregoing the bolt mod. So with that said, let's see if I can get it to red ring. Nope, it's not gonna red ring. It's finicky when it does that. Sometimes it'll boot up completely fine, other times it'll red ring and I have to power cycle. I also did buy Halo 4 because even though I have GTA 5, Halo 4 is something I'd rather play a little more often, to be quite honest. With that said, I already have my account set up on this thing, though I don't have it connected to the internet because this is an old fat model. So one other thing that all these 360s have is the disk tray. Sometimes it'll open up completely fine, other times it will refuse to open up like it is right now. And I have to take a paperclip to it and open it up that way. It's really annoying, but what you gonna do? From what I could tell, all I need to do is replace the main belt drive that actually opens and closes these things, because the belts on these things are pretty old and they are maintaining the original shape. But yeah, I'm going to get Halo 4 up on this thing and let it sit for a while. Here's that very nice Ahorus board. Like I said before, this one has the issue of turning itself on after I shut it off for the night. It, like I said before, happened literally earlier this morning to me, so I mean, yeah, it's just even more justification to do the swap out and whatnot. But as you can tell, this is a very nice board, but it's marred by that issue. There is another issue that this is marred by, but it was an easy, simple fix. The 10 gigabit NIC would constantly drop itself. I eventually learned that I just need to go into the settings for the NIC and downgrade it from 10 gigabit to 1 gigabit to match my gigabit internet. And it's been constant and stable ever since, but the constant turn, well, not near constant, but the occasional turning itself on after I shut it off for a night is like the major killing blow for this thing for me. So with that said, as you can see, at the very least, my thermal paste application is very well done. So now I gotta pull all this stuff out and get the new motherboard situated, or actually get the board that this CPU is going to go into situated, then get the new board set up and whatnot. I have this little ITX board that can support my i7 11700K, and since I do want to at least have one small form factor computer, mainly my secondary, I'm going to eventually build my secondary in this, because I'm going to be basically foregoing my current secondary, because again, I'm going to be swapping over the CPU into my main right here. So I'm just going to keep the i7 in this, and the i5 that was originally in this system, which is the 10th gen, I'm probably just going to store it somewhere, or I'm probably just going to put it in the socket right here to make sure the pins are nice and safe. Actually, yeah, that's what I'm going to do, because this board does support its 10th gen, but I don't really think I'm going to be using this board. And since I plan on actually making a gaming computer out of this board, I'm also going to be putting my RGB RAM in it just to maintain the aesthetic. But if I end up using this board for my NAS, I'm going to swap out the RGB RAM for the non-RGB RAM because, well, having RGB in a NAS is kind of stupid. Alright, got done cannibalizing what I need off this computer here. CPU and RAM. The 2 storage drives from the white computer, and the 3 storage drives from my main computer. In total, this is 7 terabytes worth of storage, 2 terabytes, and 3 1 terabytes. So I have an idea of how I'm going to get this done, considering how many slots I have on my new AsRock board. But I gotta make sure first that at least this Western Digital will work in the slot I'm probably going to be putting it in. Well, actually, I'm not going to do that right now, but and I'll need to start prepping that board. Alright, and here's my new motherboard, and as you can see, it's fairly nice. It doesn't have as much armor and whatnot as my one I'm replacing, but it's an AsRock board and they tend to be fairly stable. So with that said, let's do the peelies. Looking through my camera view, looking for my smartphone for these, so yeah. And one thing I'm actually happy about is the amount of I/O this thing has, which is kind of one of the other reasons why I chose it and whatnot. And there is a peel here, but I can't get it. Give me a bit. They have pull tabs on every other piece, but this one right here. And I think that's all the pull tabs. So when it comes to the I/O, as you can see, there is quite a bit. The big thing for me is this USB-C port. I have an Oculus Quest 2, and I use the USB-C cable. The USB-C cable on whenever I plug it into my previous board, it didn't really always felt like it latched. So let me grab that OptiLink cable, wherever it's called, and see if it fits on this. Now this one isn't the official one, it's the one from Best Buy, but let's see if it fits. Oh yeah, that one feels a lot more secure. And the one thing is, oh nope, it doesn't fully fit, but it feels a little bit more secure than the USB-C port on my previous motherboard. But with that said, I do have a USB-C port on my case, and hopefully with the front header here being a little higher bandwidth, I might be able to just plug in through that. One thing I want to note is the deep gouges on my IHS right here. And there's a little dent right here. This stinking ALM, or whatever you call it, I mean, we all know it provides a lot of pressure and uneven pressure, but it actually damaged the IHS on my particular processor. Now, with that said, if I really want to get proper performance of this chip, I should get that ILM replacement from the Bauer. But since I'm not overclocking or anything like that, as long as the temperatures stay within like 150 to 160 when I'm gaming, I'm completely fine with that. So I get to now close this thing up and start the process of putting this back together. Alright, Rainbow Barf is Rainbow Barfing is booted. I'm now in the BIOS. So it looks like everything does seem to be detected. I'm going to leave the RAM as is for now, or not as processor speed, but I'm going to leave the RAM as is for now, and I'm going to reinstall Windows on the M.2 drive right here. It looks like I have a SATA 0. What the heck is SATA 0? The motherboard really isn't any help because we got M.2 1, 3, 2, 3, and 4. M.4 is Gen 5. So I'm guessing SATA 0 is probably the actual SATA ports, but it's a little confusing. So since I don't have a Gen 5 drive and there's really no reason for me to own a Gen 5 drive, the main boot drive is going to be here, and then I'm just going to populate the rest of these DIMMs with the NVMe's I have from the other computers and whatnot. Sorry about it being overblown, but I'm in the process of installing Windows 7. And one thing that probably a few people are wondering, how am I getting Windows keys for all these motherboards I keep buying? Well, as I mentioned before, I'm a volunteer at my local Free Geek. We have a bunch of Windows laptops strewn throughout the back that are ready to be recycled and whatnot. And I'm able to go through whatever one I want and buy it for $5, and I'm able to use the key from that computer to activate a Windows 10. With that said, if everything goes as planned, there should be another activated copy of Windows 10 Pro for $5. Oh, it's going by relatively fast. So one of the downsides of AsRock is that they have yet to get with the times. Even though this is supposed to be a premium board, it still comes with a CD. But luckily I have a few computers that have a CD or /DVD drive. And one thing AsRock needs to do is get along with the times. Not that many people have CD or DVD drives anymore in their computers, especially on a high-end board like the one I got. If you're going to include drivers, include them on a little flash drive instead of a CD. Luckily, since again I'm a volunteer over at my local Free Geek, I bought a few things over the time, or over the year or so, and I got this little iMac right here with a DVD drive just for this particular occasion and whatnot. I rarely need that drive, or rarely need it in general, but man is it nice to have for when I actually need it. So I'm going to now copy all the data off that drive onto a hard drive and, well, get all the drivers installed. Now, I don't see it taking 3 hours, but I do see it taking a little while, because unfortunately this iMac right here only has USB 2, but it shouldn't take 3 hours to copy 4 gigs. But I can take the opportunity to mess around with my 360s here and play a little bit of Halo 4. Alright, just connected it to the internet, and it's now in the process of finding updates for both the motherboard drivers and of course probably Windows. Let me first make sure Norton doesn't install by accident, so I'm going to hit installed. Yes, blah blah blah. So while that does its thing, I need to prep the other NVMe drives. And to do that, I'm going to use my laptop here, and I'm going to nuke every single drive that way, so they're basically brand new or nothing on them and whatnot. Alright, so I think I understand how they had the NVMe's on this thing set up. It's a little stupid, but I got blue screen when I tried to reboot, but now it looks like it's booting up completely fine. Well, the way it's shown on their website is they have an NVMe overlapping the other one right here, but with the way they designed it, it's physically impossible. So why they did that is beyond me, because it looked like you're able to put one NVMe here and another one here. So as it currently stands now, 2 terabyte boot, 2 terabyte, or not 2 terabyte, 2 terabytes supplemental, 1 terabyte supplemental. So with that said, hopefully I won't get a blue screen. It definitely takes a little bit for it to post. Well, it didn't blue screen. That's good. Alright, so updating the BIOS on this thing was kind of like pulling teeth. It was finding me tooth and nail. I'm guessing the thumb drive I was using was not formatted properly, even though it was using FAT32. And what makes it even worse is that I found this old PYM thumb drive, and it's kind of fucked up. But it actually read the BIOS and updated itself completely fine with this messed up thumb drive. So there's that. When it comes to activating Windows on this thing, I found another method because Microsoft, being Microsoft, decided to remove the ability to use Windows 7 keys to activate Windows 10 for some asinine reason. And I don't really feel like spending $200 on Windows 10 Pro when I have a legitimate Windows 7 key, multiple Windows 7 keys I could use to activate on this board here, but Microsoft being Microsoft, and I ain't going to do that. So apparently the method I'm using is used by quite a few people and is the official way to get Windows activated on these systems. I would like to use my official Windows keys, but there's no way in heck I'm spending $200, let alone going to a shady key resale site. Oh, no, I can't get the RAM to take. It keeps failing to boot. And what makes it even worse is that this DDR5 RAM in my Gigabyte board runs at the rated 600 megahertz transfers a second. And yet on this AsRock board, give me a second, it's still stuck at 3600, which, considering I went from DDR4 3200, is still far faster, but I had the ability, or should have the ability, for 6000 megahertz, and yet the RAM is refusing to take. So if I just power it back on again, it'll probably just sit here and boot cycle for a while. So much for this board being stable. The BIOS is all up to date, and yet the RAM is refusing to take. And the RAM is specifically for Intel. Well, if I can't get my full speed of, if I can't get the full speed of my RAM, and I had that weird blue screen of death, unfortunately, it looks like this board is getting returned. Again, for all the faults of the Gigabyte, if I make do with this board, it's still a good board. But yeah, it looks like I can't really use my 11th gen processor in the way I was originally hoping for. I'm going to try one more thing. I'm going to put the RAM into the far slots and see if it works. The reason why I have them like this is because the manual, if I'm reading it right, is supposed to have it in these two slots. So let's see what happens when I put it in the other slot. Oh, this is an interesting little bug. I want to shut down my computer, but it's not letting me. I physically don't have the ability to do it. You see a little pop-up right there, but I physically can't turn the computer off. You know what? I'm taking that as a cue. I'm boxing this board back up. I'm not putting up with this bull crap. For as nice as this board is, I want stability and whatnot, and currently this board definitely is not that. Alright, got my secondary computer put back together. I do not have the 1 terabyte drive or the 2 terabyte hard drive installed. I just have the 2 terabyte main boot. I do not have an OS on it, so it should theoretically go directly to the BIOS. If anything, it should actually still have the original, all the original settings. I can actually just totally go over to the BIOS now. Okay, so let's see. If I go to, where is the easy mode? If I go to easy mode, you can see the RAM is set to 600 megahertz transfer, whatever it is. Now it says there's no, well, if I go to here, you can see NVMe drive right there. So the next step is to reinstall Windows on this thing. Let me get that done and I'll come back. All right, computer's up and running. Now at the desktop. The RAM should be at the proper speeds, so let's see if that's the case. And what you looked at is in fact at the proper speeds. So again, other than this case being a little longer than I like, everything about this computer seems to still be working completely fine. The next question is, what will happen when I connect this to the internet? Because I need to go and obviously download the drivers and whatnot for this thing. But what I want to see what will happen is, can I still have this fully activated? I did use a Windows 7 key prior to Microsoft changing the term or closing that loophole, but it theoretically should still activate. So let me connect it to the internet and we'll see what happens. Microsoft has in fact removed the ability for you to legally activate Windows 10 with Windows 7 keys. Why they did that, I don't know, but fuck you, Microsoft. When it comes to my AsRock board, I have returned it. I'm pointing at my Gigabyte board now. I also bought myself another board. This one's an MSI Z690 Carbon, and it's supposedly better than what I currently had. So that'll be coming in supposedly Friday. So for the time being, I'll be keeping all my stuff out here in the kitchen. That way, so when that board does eventually come in, I can just start working on it on the kitchen table and on the counter there, and hopefully get my main rig all up and running again. Same thing with my secondary. With that said, I am retooling my whole setup again to an extent, and I'm going to have a whole separate little video on that. But yeah, I don't know what's wrong with that AsRock board. I'm guessing it was defective. I don't know. But if this MSI board doesn't work, I'm just going to return that also. And I'm going to go revert back to all my original, to the original setup and whatnot, because at least that I know is stable. And when it comes to that board right there, I think I might just be selling it on eBay. And I feel like a few dollars in a lot. That way so I can recoup some of my money. The reason why I'm not going to be going back to this board is because, like I mentioned before, it likes to turn itself on when I turn it off for the night. It happens randomly and it's annoying, which is something I shouldn't be doing. And I still have my original MSI board from when I made this system, and I'll be able to just put that board into this computer here and it'll work completely fine. But yeah.